This is the Hustler's Corner.
I'm quite excited because we're recording the first episode for 2022. It's been quite an interesting journey. Lots of episodes have grown. I think lockdown has really forced a lot of people to go online, and I'd like to say to all of our new subscribers, to everybody that is here, we appreciate you, we thank you, and we welcome you to 2022 and the first episode of 2022 of the Hustler's Corner. You're more than welcome, guys. Now, I'm excited today because I'm sitting with somebody who is, I call them my tribe. He's not only my tribe as an entrepreneur, but he's my tribe in the cryptocurrency space. Now, this is one of the first people that tried to introduce, let me not say he tried, he introduced cryptocurrency to me a couple of years ago. But at the time, I was still skeptical. I did not want to hear of anything that has to do with things I did not understand. And I'm sure just like a whole lot of other people out there, you know, when you hear Forex trading or you hear crypto, sometimes we receive the information differently. But I eventually, as a late bloomer, got into crypto, but I always have to give this guy his props that he deserves. That he's actually the first person that introduced me to it many years ago. He's been in that space for a couple of years, but let's not talk about crypto yet because it's something we'll talk about later. He's an entrepreneur, somebody from the Eastern Cape, came to Joburg like everybody chasing his dream. He's been in the real estate industry. He's an entrepreneur. He's tried things. Some things didn't work. He's done things. He has worked for somebody before. He's had a boss before. But I think what brings us together is just this like-mindedness. As entrepreneurs, we want to build our own vision. We've got a vision for our community, for our family, for our young people in the country, and we would like to see it get somewhere. We'd like to see it materialize. And we're one of those people that just don't want to sit back and always blame, and complain, which is good. You must always hold your government to account. Always hold them accountable, your politicians. But you must not be waiting at the same time. You gotta be doing things on the side. You gotta be hustling. You gotta be getting things started. You gotta be moving, meeting people, networking, building your brand, or whatever it might be that you guys are doing out there. This person is the same or similar, just like how I am as a hustler, just like how you are out there as hustlers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the Hustler's Corner for the first time in 2022, Mr. Lonwabo Fololo.
Thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm great, Kanjan.
No, I'm blessed, man. You know, the first thing I want to ask you is, when I eventually started getting into crypto, I obviously did not tell you, but I'm sure you might have started seeing it on my social media platforms because we follow each other. What was the first thing on your mind where you were like, this one, I've been telling him, finally. What did you think?
So I felt exactly like that, I told him, But, the beautiful thing is that, over the years, I'm kind of used to that now because, when we started, this was like literally, new in South Africa. Very few people, knew about cryptocurrencies and so forth. But we always knew that this is the future, right? People sooner or later will get to realize what this thing is about, where it's going, and they would want to get involved.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised. So yeah. I always say to the guys, whenever you talk to someone and they say, I'm not really interested in those things, those things are scams, whatever the case is. I always say that, a no, it's not actually a no, it's a not now. It's a matter of time. That person is going to turn the corner and realize the potential of crypto.
I'm actually excited that we are here, and I'm actually excited at the speed at which the cryptocurrency community is growing in South Africa. But what excites me even more is the gospel that we've all lived and we've been preaching over the years, the gospel of entrepreneurship. I'm so excited and glad that now the voices are getting louder and louder that are preaching entrepreneurship, that are preaching us being independent, building our own things, supporting one another. I'm starting to hear that conversation become louder. This is me being happy of that entrepreneurship culture in South Africa, the growth of it, where we are. But this is also me being happy with the growth of the cryptocurrency culture in South Africa and where we are. But I still think, as much as I'm a late bloomer, we're still at the beginning in South Africa. True. Before we get into entrepreneurship and cryptocurrency and all these things, at some point you were a little boy. Maybe let's start from there. I'm not going to do much talking. I'll leave it to you. I'd like for you to tell us your story. Who is Lonwabo Fololo?
Yeah. So I grew up in Port Elizabeth. I stayed, my mom. No,
New
no.
Brighton.
Actually, I was born in New Brighton.
Okay.
But we moved to Motherwell.
Oh, I know Motherwell.
In the early 80s. So we were one of the the first people to arrive in Motherwell in the early 80s. I stayed a few months with my aunt, right? My father's sister. At the time, she had a shop. And there was no electricity back in those days, but they had a generator, right?
Yeah.
And
I remember we used to watch TV.
The
whole night.
Yeah. So they had a generator, they had a shop, they had a baki, so subconsciously I was really, taking in this. But then I went back to my mom's, right? So I stayed with my mom, and my stepdad. And eventually also moved to stay with my grandmother, and that is where I stayed most of my youth, with my grandmother. And I think that's where the entrepreneurial bug actually really got me. You were talking about this issue of entrepreneurs. That there's a lot of people as Kulanabo, who've done stuff that we never really saw them as entrepreneurs. But now that we are older and we understand, what entrepreneurship is, you get to realize that these people are actually entrepreneurs. My grandmother, was working as a domestic worker, and grew up, my grandmother, my mother were not educated, they were domestic workers. But my grandmother, she had to stop working due to ill health. And one guy, something in yan, and then she went home. Life had to continue happening, right? So what she did, we were lucky enough that our home was, at an intersection, like a corner, and right opposite us there was a shop, right? But the shop was not selling things like fruits and veg, and So what my grand did, she took the money that she got. And got one of my uncles to build. We call it a stand, right? In front, went to the farmers market. Bought fruits, vegetables, and started selling. Right? She sold everything you can think of: fruits, vegetable, your sweets, chocolates. I remember, I think I was around 12 or something when I started actually going to go and buy the stuff for her. And so I was involved, in this whole thing, watching subconsciously what was happening. And by the age of 15, I started my first business. At age 15, I was a photographer. Yes. So, I literally begged, my mom to buy me this camera. Eventually, she did. And this guy used to look very nice and clean, and he was a photographer. He seemed to be making some money, and so I got drawn into that. And so we started, but it was a few months, we were young with my partner, things didn't go well. We had to go our separate ways, but I continued, hustling, So, but really the bug of entrepreneurship, I got it from my grandmother, because she would even buy old clothes, right? Go down, buy old clothes. Back in the day, there was no ShopRite, there was no Pep, there was no shopping mall. So second-hand clothes were actually good business back then. So she would buy these clothes and she would sell. And I remember there was one thing that, and I used to get teased a lot because of this, right? Because she would put like a blanket right in front of the house and put all these clothes, with prices, and so they used to say, oh Claire, So, yeah. So, and then apart from that, there's something else that I used to get teased a lot that she used to sell. We have dogs, we have cats, and there was a lot of intakumba,
Yeah.
So she used to get this, it's like, the color was like champagne color. She used to buy this medicine, I'll call it medicine, and this thing, you mix it with water, you put it in your blankets, it kills the, intakumba.
Yeah.
So, and then, she would put a board there, write it herself, put a board and say, yes, alendakumba.
Yeah.
But now, when you read that in